Hello everyone, we are back with the Rams franchise, and today we will be heading into and getting through the entire offseason as the defending Super Bowl champions. Before we get into the offseason and start making a bunch of moves, I want to talk about what we did last year as a team and also go position group by position group to talk about what we have already on the roster. As a team, we had a lot of success. We ended up going 14-3 in the regular season, we won the NFC West, and ended up making a run in the postseason, which led to us winning the Super Bowl over the Ravens. The first position group we have to talk about is the quarterback group, the quarterback room, whatever you want to call it. It is led by Josh Rosen. He's our franchise guy. He had a great year in 2024 this last year. It was pretty good, but not great. His Super Bowl performance, though, that was great. He threw 5 touchdowns and won Super Bowl MVP, and he is definitely our undisputed starter and franchise guy, and we have a good backup in Ben Portis. So I don't think we're going to be making any changes to our quarterback room. The running back room, I don't think we're going to be adding anybody to this position group either, but it still has a big question mark, and that is who is going to be the starter, and how do we divide the carries and touches in the backfield. Antonio Gibson had a great year in 2024. 2025 for him was a rough one. He suffered multiple injuries and ended up not playing in the Super Bowl. While he was out, Montel Rodriguez filled in nicely. He was very good in the regular season, averaging over 5 yards per carry. In the Super Bowl, he went off. He had 142 yards on the ground and a touchdown, and had 2 touchdown catches, including the game winner in the Super Bowl. So we have good running backs on the roster already. It's just a matter of how do we actually divide this backfield up in terms of carries and touches. I don't know. Something we'll have to figure out in the preseason and may even end up carrying over into the regular season. We still might not know by then. The receiver room is a veteran-led one with Cooper Kupp and Mike Williams at the top, and they were both very good last year and have been great for us in this franchise. But they will be on the last year of their contracts. They are both regressing and over the age of 30, so we do need to start to plan for the future at receiver. Anthony Allen, he's a very good young receiver on our roster. He did miss some time last year with a partially torn ACL, but he was good when he was healthy. The tight end room I also want to include a bit in this. We got a good youngster in Michael Kirkpatrick, who actually had his dev trait go up to now a star. OJ Howard, he is set to be a free agent, and he is somebody I would like to bring back, despite us having another good option there to be a backup in Keenan Russell. So expect us to make some additions to the receiver room and try and bring back OJ Howard to be a depth tight end for us. The offensive line, it was kind of a disaster last year. We ended up allowing 57 sacks in the regular season and had to deal with a lot of injuries to this group. So this is a position group that we will be making changes to as well. Steve Avila, he is going to be sliding over to center if possible. And that would mean that Brian Sandridge would be a backup. And that would be fine with me because Sandridge, despite having a high overall and being star development, he gets injured, it feels like, on every snap that he's out there. Another position that we're going to be shifting around on the offensive line is right guard. We're going to be moving Tevin Jenkins to right guard. He is better suited to that position, and Damian Lewis, he is going to be a free agent anyway. So we will need a new starting left guard and a new starting right tackle. The interior defensive line room is in a spot where we may look at trading somebody away. And that would be because it would help us strengthen a different position group, and also because the way that the modern NFL is played. Most teams in the NFL nowadays, they go out of 11 personnel on offense, which is 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a running back. And that would lead us to going to nickel a lot, which we do. And that means we only have 2 interior defensive linemen out there, so we don't really need 4 of them. So we may look at trading one of them away. And the position group that we might look to strengthen is edge rusher. Heading into next year, we have just 2 edge rushers under contract in Byron Young and Benji Shepard. Now, I like Benji Shepard, but I don't know if he's ready to be a starter. So, edge rusher is a spot where we really have to look at making some changes or bringing all these guys back or some mixture of that. I like Michael Hoyt and Ronnie Perkins. They both offer good depth and utility. DeMarcus Lawrence, he was a starter for us last year, but he's another year older and he's declining. And I don't really want to bring him back as an undisputed starter, so we may end up letting him walk in free agency. I guess it just depends on the type of contract that he is looking for. Devin White and Lonnie Culliver make up a great 1-2 punch at middle linebacker, and they will be our starters heading into next year. But behind them, we don't really have any depth going into this next season. We had Malik Harrison and, of course, Ernest Jones this last year, but they're both set to be free agents, and I don't expect us to bring either of them back. So, middle linebacker, another position where we have to figure out depth. At cornerback, we got Edison Caver, who may be the best cornerback in the NFL, and he's been fantastic for us. But the cornerback that's had to be opposite of him has had a tough time. They've been targeted a lot. Nolan Walker had a rough rookie season, but he did pick off a pass in the Super Bowl that sealed us the win. And I want to give Nolan Walker a chance in the preseason to solidify himself and give him a chance to make a second-year leap. Kelvin Joseph, he was a starter for us this last year and the year before. He is set to be a free agent, and I wouldn't mind having him back, but it would have to be as a nickel cornerback. I don't really want him being a outside cornerback for us anymore if he is back. And it depends really on what the contract he's looking for is looking like. Jason Taylor II and Jordan Fuller are a great tandem at free safety and strong safety. Jason Taylor II, he's still on his rookie contract, and Jordan Fuller, we have already extended him in season. So we don't have to worry about our starting free safety or strong safety, or even one of the backup positions. We have a very capable backup in Justice Branch, who's got star development and has some solid ratings. He'll be heading into year number 2 of his NFL career. By the other backup spot, it will likely have to be somebody different. We had Nick Cross this last year as one of our backups, but he does not want to be back. So expect us to add a new backup safety to play alongside Justice Branch as a backup. So edge rusher, we need a starter there. Cornerback, could also use a starter there, and really need a lot of depth on defense. Tanner Brown, he had an amazing season. He broke the single season record for most field goals made, and he is set to be a free agent. And I obviously want to bring him back, but how much are we really going to pay a kicker? That is something we're going to have to decide here during the offseason. With all that out of the way, we can now get the offseason underway. We'll begin it by taking a look at a few key retirements. A couple of former Rams have decided to retire in Rob Havenstein and Johnny Hecker. And now that we are a few years into this franchise, you can see that some of the bigger names are hanging up their cleats and moving on. Speaking of moving on, we'll have to move on to a new offensive and defensive coordinator again this year, just like we did last year in the offseason. Bob Bates, our OC from this past season, he's heading to Green Bay. He'll be the Packers' new head coach. Glenn Ross, our DC from last year, he is going to Cleveland, where he'll be the head coach of the Browns. So again, some more changes coming to our coaching staff. Mike McDaniel, he was our offensive coordinator a few years ago, and then last year he was with the Vikings as their head coach, but he got fired after just 1 year. Kevin Bell, one of our old defensive coordinators, he will be remaining with the Saints as their head coach. So our new offensive coordinator is Alan Davidson. He was our wide receiver coach last year, and I don't really expect a ton of changes to the offense, but maybe more crossing routes. Scott Anderson, he was our linebacker coach last year, and I expect a lot of more press man coverage and a lot of big hits from our linebackers. With that done and over with, we can jump to the re-signing period. We'll start here with O.J. Howard, who I did say I wanted to bring back, and it's not a long-term deal, just a one-year offer, and he's going to decline and test free agency out. Joseph Noteboom, somebody I did not mention earlier, but he has been huge for us. He has allowed no sacks over the last 2 seasons, and he's played a lot of different positions for us and started. He even had to play in the Super Bowl. So I want to bring him back. He's a good depth player to have. A 1-year, $3 million deal to be one of our backups that could play anywhere on the offensive line, and he's going to take that. Glad to keep him around. Kelvin Joseph. I do want to have him back, but I don't want to overpay him. So a 2-year, $10 million deal, that seems pretty favorable to me to be our slot cornerback, but he will end up testing out free agency. Michael Hoyt, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Ronnie Perkins. I wouldn't mind having these guys back, but it's got to be for the right price. Michael Hoyt, he's more of a utility depth guy, I believe, than a real starting edge rusher. So it's a 1-year deal, just $3 million in total. He is going to decline and hit free agency. How about Ronnie Perkins? He's a bit younger. He may not be as versatile. He can't play on the inside on the defensive line, but he offers some consistent play, especially for somebody who doesn't really end up on the field a ton. I mean, 4 sacks in each of the last 2 years. We'll offer him a 2-year deal, and he's going to take it. And that is for $6 million in total. Tanner Brown. I mean, we got to offer him something, and he probably should end up being the highest paid kicker in the NFL. So we will offer him a 4-year, $26.4 million deal, and he's going to take that. And he'll be our kicker for a while longer. We have a lot of guys that we're going to be letting hit free agency in Josh Jones, Donovan Smith, Damian Lewis, Anthony Schwartz, Gerard Clark, Malik Harrison, and then there are some other guys I might want back, but they will hit free agency in O.J. Howard, Javon Kinlaw, Tim Settle Jr., Michael Hoyt, DeMarcus Lawrence, Ernest Jones, Kelvin Joseph, and Nick Cross. So a lot of guys that we might try and bring back, but might not be able to. Before we get into free agency, we have to make a trade. It was either going to be Kobe Turner or Milton Williams, who both have just 1 year left on their contract. And in the end, it will be Milton Williams, who makes a bit more than Kobe Turner and also has star development, whereas Turner only has normal. So Milton Williams, he's worth a bit more. We sent him to the Steelers, who just had a legendary interior defensive lineman retire. So they get Williams and a 5th-round pick in this year's draft. We get a 2nd in this year's draft and a 6th in next year's draft. On to free agency. The first position I wanted to look at was offensive line. And a tackle really caught my eye in Jordan Mailata. He is a former rugby player, so he's got a ton of athleticism, and I think I would move him to right tackle. That way we would be able to keep our good young player in Melvin Francois at left tackle. Mailata, he's played a lot of snaps and hasn't exactly been the best in pass protection, despite having good ratings. Maybe him shifting over to right tackle would be great for him. We offer a 5-year, $133 million deal, and that puts us at the top of the list. But there are some other good offers out there for him. Kelvin Joseph, we upped the offer a bit. It's now 2 years, $12 million instead of 2 years, $10. I hope that's enough, because the cornerback market is not very good in free agency. David Ojabo, he hasn't really played a ton for the Ravens, and I'm not even going to bother showing his stats because he doesn't really have any stats to show, but he's got interesting ratings, and I wouldn't mind having him as a rotational guy. I wouldn't want to just give him a starting spot, but as a rotational guy, 2 years, $9 million, quite a bit for one, but I think he would be probably worth that with some upside. And we have the top offer out there for him. Will it be enough for us to get him, though, is the question. Sky Moore, he has not been very good for the Chiefs overall in real life, but he's got some intriguing ratings here in Madden, and he did have one good season for the Chiefs. It wasn't last year, It was actually in 2024, and he looked pretty good that year. But then, for some reason, the Chiefs just didn't really use him this past season. And he would be just some insurance in case we strike out on receiver in the draft. Just a one-year deal for $4 million, and that would give him a chance to kind of prove himself if we do miss out on receiver in the draft. We have the only offer out there for him, so I expect him to end up taking that, or we would have to increase it if somebody else offers. Eric Armstead, he would be great to have to mentor Emmett Spearman. At left end is what we'd end up listing Eric Armstead in. He could obviously play all over on the inside of your defensive line with his ratings and his size. He's been very good the last couple of years, bouncing around the league, playing for the 49ers, the Texans, and the Steelers. And at this point in his career, I don't know if he should be a full-time starter, and he kind of fits as a rotational backup. A one-year, $9 million deal to be that mentor and backup interior defensive lineman for us. We do end up getting Jordan Mailata, Kelvin Joseph, and Eric Armstead to all accept their offers in the first round of free agency. Unfortunately, David Ojabo, he decided to sign for a bit less with the Saints, but he should end up getting more of a full-time role there than what he would have got with us. So at edge rusher, we end up turning our attention to DeMarcus Lawrence, who I didn't exactly want to bring back, but he's the best one out there. And we only have to offer him a one-year deal for $6 million, and that's the top offer to him right now. Brian Asamoah, he is a very good athlete for a middle linebacker. In the old school NFL, he probably would have been a safety with his size and speed. But nowadays, he's a linebacker, and I think he could be a very good special teams player for us, worst case scenario, and a decent backup. Best case is that if somebody gets hurt, he could step in and not be bad. So we offer him a one-year, $4.6 million deal to be insurance for us at middle linebacker and just some solid depth. The Titans do have an offer out there for him. We'll see if we end up getting him. And we're actually going to go ahead and just jump straight to the end of free agency and see who we ended up getting. We have brought back O.J. Howard. We got him to sign that same one-year deal that we offered to him before free agency. He didn't accept it then, but after having seen what the market looked like at tight end, he ends up signing back. We have also signed, or brought back, I should say, Javon Kinlaw, Tim Settle Jr., and Michael Hoyt. They all took a cheap one-year deal that will not guarantee him a roster spot, but a chance to compete for one in the preseason. Calvin Joseph, he'll be our nickel cornerback after taking that two-year deal. Andrew Booth Jr. and Jonathan Abram will compete for some roster spots in the preseason. They both take not guaranteed deals, or at least not very much guaranteed on their deals. Brian Asamoah II, he is going to be one of our backup middle linebackers and a key special teams player for us. Sky Moore gives us a fallback option at wide receiver in case we strike out in the draft. Eric Armstead will be some key depth for us on the defensive line and a mentor. Jordan Mailata, though, he is a big get for us here in free agency. Isaiah Likely, he'll be heading to Kansas City to replace Travis Kelce. I think that's a pretty good fit for both him and the Chiefs. The Steelers, they not only went out and traded for Milton Williams, but they went out and signed DJ Reader and Ernest Jones to try and help build up their defense. And another former Ram has signed with the Steelers in Damian Lewis. The Steelers are quickly becoming the Rams of the East here in our franchise. Remember, they signed Tutu Atwell as well. I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody else. DeMarcus Lawrence, he didn't sign with us, but he signed with the Arizona Cardinals, which means that we have to face him 2 times next year. That's cool. Here is a look at what the roster looks like after free agency and before the draft. On offense, we still need to add a guard and a wide receiver. On defense, there is one clear need. That is edge rusher. We really need to get one here in the draft, or we're going to have to trade for one before the season. Besides that, it's really just us trying to add depth in the draft. Here is a look at who we have selected for the private workouts. Blake McCollum, the first one I want to talk about, he's an edge rusher out of Ohio State at 6'5", 271. He's got great size. He is very athletic for a bigger edge rusher, running under a 4.7. And he's a power rusher, which play better in Madden. He's got 8 power moves. He's got a high injury rating, good tackling, good awareness and play rec. A lot of things to like about him. And he's projected to go in this 2nd or 3rd round. And we did just pick up a 2nd round pick in that trade with the Steelers of us giving them Milton Williams. So that might help us actually get an edge rusher. Jamal Holcomb is a 6'4" wide receiver out of Miami at 219, also 22 years old. He ran a 4.46 at his pro day and a 4.48 at the combine, and he looks pretty well rounded for somebody of his size. Not really any dings against his skill set, and he has round 1 talent. And to make things even better, he is projected to go in the 2nd or 3rd round. So there are 2 guys right now that are projected to go in that range that we want. Lorenzo Fields, a huge guard out of Alabama at 6'5", 344. He's only 21. His physicals are elite for a guard of his size. He can move, and he's got round 1 talent. And when you do get to his skill set, not really a lot of bad here. The injury rating it's mid. His run block finesse and pass block finesse are not great, but everything else is really good, and he's got round 1 talent. And we do have, obviously, pick 32, which we might end up being able to get him with. Here is a look at the picks we have in this year's draft, with the exception of one. We do have another 7th round pick that's not on this screen. It's the Mr. Irrelevant selection, being our own 7th round pick. In order to fill all of the needs we have in this year's draft, I think we're going to have to make a lot of trades. We'll see if we can make them happen or not. The first 2 picks in this year's draft were each used on a quarterback. The Patriots go Ryan Carnegie with the 1st overall pick, and the Lions, they go Jose Barner, 2nd overall. The Seahawks already have a good young quarterback in Glenn Smith in place, so they go edge rusher, 3rd overall in James Allen. Paul Hunter, he'll go pick 13 to the Saints as they go quarterback. They're trying to move on from Derek Carr. The 49ers, another team in our division, they take Josh Sally, an interior defensive lineman out of Clemson. The Cardinals are trying to beef up their offensive line and help out Kyler Murray and help him stay upright. He got injured when he played him last year, and that may have cost him a playoff game, so they go left tackle and Chance Milner. This was a spot where I just wanted to make sure that we get the guy that we want. So we make a trade. We give up a 5th round pick in next year's draft to move up just 2 spots. I thought it would take more than that, but it didn't. And we are going to select Lorenzo Fields, the big guard out of Alabama, and he's got hidden development, 86 strength, good looking athleticism. I hope he could be a plug-and-play starter for us at left guard. Midway through the 2nd round, I thought this was another spot where we should trade up to get a guy that I know we want. So we give up a lot more. It took a lot more effort to get this trade to go through. We give up a 3rd and 5th in this year's draft and a 2nd and 5th in next year's draft. And it's not to select Jamal Holcomb. It is to select Blake McCollum, the edge rusher out of Ohio State. We have a huge need at that position, so we take him, and he's got hidden development as well. 88 strength, 84 speed. The only hope now is that Jamal Holcomb somehow falls to us. And luckily for us, he does end up falling to us. So we do not have to miss out and wonder what could have been. We have a chance to take him here, and we will, with the 27th pick in the 2nd round, and he is going to make it 3 in a row. 3 straight hidden development players for us in this draft. 90 speed, 93 change of direction. Looks pretty good. But we are not done there. We are also going to trade again here, this time with the Commanders, giving up a 3rd and 7th round pick in this year's draft and a 3rd and 7th in next year's draft to move up to the 28th pick in the 2nd round. And there was a player just sitting here who I knew would not be around when we came up on the clock later in the draft, and I thought should have already been gone by this point. Sammy Patton, a middle linebacker out of Iowa who's only 21, very athletic, has a great looking skill set. Really the only downfall for him is that his injury rating may not be the best, but we can work on that. He won't have to be a starter for us right away. Hopefully he's got a good overall and a high development trait. We take him here, and he does have a hidden development, making it 4 in a row. 89 speed, 88 excel. We'll see what his overall ends up looking like. Now in the 4th round, I thought this would be a good spot to trade back. So we did. We're going to be sending the 32nd pick in the 4th round to the Broncos for the 15th pick in the 5th round and a 6th round pick in next year's draft. And with that pick that we just got from the Broncos, we're going to be trading it away as well, sending it to the Steelers for the 32nd pick in the 5th round and a 6th round pick in the 2028 draft. So yes, we did actually just trade back for our own pick from the Steelers. We will use it. We're going to select a defensive lineman in Chris Stanley, who is 6'5", 309, 21 years old out of South Carolina. His physicals look pretty good. He had a great day at the Combine, had a good college pro day. So what's the catch with him? Why is he still here? Well, his skill set. It's not amazing. He's only got B block shedding, which is not bad, and his stamina and injury rating look pretty good, but everything else is not very high rated. So, taking a risk here, but it's a late round pick, and he ends up having hidden development. 70 speed, 85 strength. So I guess he's just a very toolsy type of player. Hopefully we can end up developing him into something. Now in the 6th round with the 12th pick in it, we are going to take another chance on a player, this time in Devon Nash. He's a free safety at 5'10", 202, 22 years old out of Wisconsin, and his Combine and Pro Day were not that bad, and he looks all right physically. I mean, the speed's not the best, and his skill set, it's got a wide range of outcomes here. He was projected to go in the 3rd or 4th round, but he fell all the way here to the 6th round. And I thought, why not take a chance on him? You don't have to keep him. You can cut a 6th round pick. If he sucks, we took him, and he's only got normal development, ending our great streak we had going. His speed is just an 84. He must have high coverage. If not, I don't know if he's going to make the team. Now the Mr. Irrelevant selection. We're going to use it on a tackle in CJ Benford. 6'4", 337, 21 years old out of TCU. His physicals look really good. He had the best bench press of anybody at right tackle on his college pro day. And his skill set looks pretty good. B awareness, C pass block, B run block. A lot of things that are not that bad for a 7th round pick. He's only got normal development, but 88 strength, decent athleticism for a big tackle. Maybe his overall isn't that bad. I guess we'll find out here soon. Let's go ahead and take a look at all of our draft picks. We'll start with Lorenzo Fields. He's got hidden development, 76 overall. That's a great sign. And his ratings look pretty good. The run block finesse, that needs work, but he looks really good to me. He's even got high awareness. I think he can be a day 1 starter for us at left guard. Blake McCollum, a 75 overall. Now his overall is likely going to go down when we move him to an outside linebacker to fit our 3-4 defense, but he's got good power moves, good athleticism, and he seems pretty good to me. We'll give him a chance to play early in the preseason to see if he can earn a starting spot. Jamal Holcomb, a 75 overall as well, and he looks really good. The only thing that needs work is the route running, and it's at a good starting spot, and you can develop him any way you want route running wise. You can make him a deep threat, make him an underneath guy. What about Sammy Patton? 76 overall, great speed, block shedding, not terrible. Zone coverage is really good for a starting spot. The man coverage, it needs some work, but it looks really good as well. Another great pick. Chris Stanley, 66 overall. And I'm assuming the ratings are not the best. They're not bad. 73 block shedding is a good starting point, and the power moves aren't awful. Maybe he's got a chance to be a solid backup for us early in his career with some high upside. Devon Nash, just a 64 overall. What's the coverage looking like? 70 zone, 58 man, not very fast, not the best awareness or play rec. I don't think he's going to end up making the team, but maybe he could surprise us in the preseason. Ratings aren't everything. As we know with Josh Rosen, we saw he played really well with bad ratings early in this franchise. CJ Benford, 66 overall. Needs to work on the run block finesse and pass block finesse as a tackle, but it's not that bad. for the Mr. Irrelevant selection. Overall, I think our draft class is pretty good. Maybe one of the better ones you've had in the franchise. How about Arizona? A division rival of ours. They go Chance Milner. Looks pretty solid. Daniel Simons, he was their second round pick, and he's pretty good as well as they continue to beef up the offensive line. They also took a running back later in the draft who's got hidden development in Mitch Henry. Could be the heir apparent to Austin Eckler, who led the NFL last year in rushing touchdowns. The 49ers go Josh Sally with their first round pick, and he doesn't look the greatest. But the good news for them is they got another great safety. Win Cochran. He's got 92 speed. He's a high overall. In development. Sure, he's going to be great. Terrence Edmonds, the cornerback they got later in the draft. He's got in development and has some potential. He was their third round pick. So not a terrible draft for the 49ers or the Cardinals. The Seahawks, they got James Allen, 74 overall. And he's not bad, but I like Blake McCollum, maybe better, and we got him in the second round. Cameron Winters, a big tackle I had interest in, and he's only got normal development, so I guess it's a good thing we didn't get him. The Seahawks also got Brandon Davies, a guard who's got hidden development. So they had a pretty solid draft, not a bad one for anybody in our division. The Patriots ended up taking the quarterback with the highest floor in the draft in Ryan Carnegie. He's got 88 short accuracy and hidden development. Jose Barner, he's got boomer bust potential, 96 throw power, hidden development, but the accuracies need some work. Paul Hunter, not really bad at anything, but not great at anything either. He does have hidden development, so the three quarterbacks that went early in the draft, not bad. Rodney Rossum ends up being the highest overall player in the entire draft. And the team that took him, it is Glenn Ross's team. He's now the head coach of the Browns. He was our defensive coordinator, and he gets the best player in the draft to boost his defense up. It's already got Myles Garrett on it. But back to us, I thought the offseason went pretty well for us. It wasn't perfect. We ended up striking out in free agency at edge rusher, so we really had to get kind of desperate there in the draft and trade up to get Blake McCollum. And the draft, yeah, speaking of that, I think that went really well for us. But I want to hear your thoughts down below on what you thought of the draft and the offseason in general, and anything you want to tell me down below in the comments section. In the next episode, we'll get through training camp and the preseason. Thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.